After young college students Andy, David Keith, and Vicky, Heather Locklear, participated in strange experiments, they both gained powers, and they eventually get married and have a child together named Charlie. She eventually gains powers herself and becomes pyrokinetic with some telekinetic abilities. It's because of this a strange government agency wants to use her powers to control and weaponize her, and because of that, Charlie and Andy are on the run. Despite the pretty interesting plot, for the most part this movie is boring and bland. The thing that kind of holds the movie together is the relationship between Charlie and her father, but even that's pretty much forgotten in the second half of the movie. I just feel there's no emotion or character development or really any story. The first half is them on the run, and that's kind of interesting, but neither of these characters are fleshed out all that much. Hell, the relationship between Andy and Vicky is barely touched on with the exception of a flashback. There's no heart, no passion, no love in this movie. Everything is just kind of there. This movie has a great cast, yet they barely do anything great. You have Martin Sheen, Art Carney, George C. Scott, and Louise Fletcher, yet their parts are either minuscule or they aren't really interesting. As I stated in my Christine review, originally John Carpenter was offered the chance to direct while he was filming The Thing. He hired Bill Lancaster to write the script. King approved of this version, but Carpenter wanted Bill Phillips to write another version of the script. He allegedly wanted Richard Dreyfuss as the role of Andy. However, after The Thing bombed critically and financially, Universal went to Mark L. Lester instead, and we got this uninteresting mess. It feels very much like Diet John Carpenter, where you have his visual style and tone, but none of the substance and heart that makes most of his films so great and interesting. I did like a couple things though. As I stated, the relationship between Charlie and Andy is a highlight, and the music from Tangerine Dream is fucking awesome. Plus, the climax is really great and exciting, and the first half is fine. It's just the second half is bland as hell, the characters are pretty uninteresting, the plot meanders for most of the running time, and it takes a really cool premise and makes it just kind of bleh. King stated that this was one of the worst adaptations of his works, and called it flavorless like cafeteria mashed potatoes. It's not horrendous by any means, just disappointing, with incredibly failed execution and the absolute epitome of bland filmmaking. Just watch the climax on YouTube, that part is awesome. So I'm going to be kind of repeating myself in terms of similar thoughts with this and my previous review with Children of the Corn, with that the original film is okay. I still hold true to my thoughts on the original film, just like with Children of the Corn, that it's not that good. But at least Diet John Carpenter is better than absolutely nothing. It's competently made, it has some good highlights, the acting is fine, mainly from the all-star veterans and Drew Barrymore, the music is great, and the climax is great. Listen to the soundtrack and watch the climax. At least this movie has those two things. I also wanted to say that I didn't realize until the remake came out that George C. Scott was supposed to be Native American. I don't know if they ever said his last name in the movie, which was Rainbird. I don't really remember, but I don't think they paid much attention to it. So I didn't realize that bit, or I did when I was watching it and then totally fucking forgot. Or repressed it, more likely. It's just hilarious looking back because they literally just put the fucker in a ponytail and they were like, yeah, that's enough. Sure, why not? I mean, that's better than brownface, so I'll give them that. Apparently, John Carpenter talked with Darwin Jostin, another white actor, to play the role of John Rainbird when he was still helming the film. He had worked with him previously on Assault on Precinct 13 as Napoleon. It certainly would have been better to get someone who was at least younger than the 57-year-old out-of-shape George C. Scott, but I know a lot of people like this movie with their rose-tinted glasses, and that's fine, as it does have some highlights, certainly more highlights than Children of the Corn and other mediocre King adaptations like the original Pet Sematary, but this could have benefited from a good remake. And I was excited when the new one was announced because it could have given us something truly special like the Pet Sematary remake. But unfortunately this was not the case, and I have my buddy, the right dude, to tell us why that is the case for the Firestarter remake. First thing I wanted to ask, have you seen the original Firestarter?
Yes, I have.
What are your thoughts on the original Firestarter?
Um, Truth be told, I'm honestly not the biggest fan of the original. I honestly just think it's a little too slow. It's a little too. The acting is decent, I would say, from the original, but I mean, it didn't really have a lot going for it for me, so I wasn't really too big on the original.
Yeah. Have you? This is gonna be very obscure, but have you seen the sequel miniseries Firestarter 2 Rekindled?
To be honest with you, I didn't even know there was a sequel about it.
Well, okay, I guess that answers that question. So going into the remake, were you like outside of the original? Were you aware of anything going into the remake, like reviews, certain plot lines, differences, changes, anything like that?
I mean, well, for me, I haven't. Truth be told, is that I haven't read the book. I don't. I haven't read the book or anything, but I know that like when I first saw the trailer, I was honestly at least very hopeful that it was at least better than the original. Kind of like the kind of like how the 2017 was better than the miniseries.
Right.
So I at least had that kind of hope for. I didn't know a whole lot about it. Like I said, I did not read the book.
Right.
So
So going into the film specifically, what is the film's greatest weakness? Like, what breaks the film for you?
the biggest problem I could think of for the remake is the fact that it is just so boring. It's there's a lot of bad things about it, but I know you'll probably get to that soon. But it's just the fact that it was just so boring, and it just seemed like there wasn't a lot that was going a lot not a lot was going on.
Right.
So
So anything else like bad about the film? Obviously, no spoilers. So, what else was bad about it?
the acting was atrocious. It was so bad. Not one good performance. I mean, even actors who I know can act like Zac Efron, even he didn't give a shit about being in this movie. Even he did not care.
Yeah.
And the CGI was just so laughably bad. It looks way too fake. The pacing, it movie is an hour and a half long, and it feels like 2 hours.
God,
Yeah, I know, right? It's just so much about it. It's just
yeah, I gotcha. But with that, I'm just curious. Did the movie do like anything good in your eyes? Like anything at all?
there was one good thing, just one,
Mm.
and that was the score because it was actually composed by John Carpenter and his two sons.
I
So that
believe it was. I believe it's his son and his friend of his. I think Daniel
yeah.
Davies is like a nephew or a godson or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that was like the only good thing is that it was at least well composed by John
Yeah.
Carpenter.
And the fact that they actually got a real fucking Native American for John Rainbird, at least give them that, rather than sticking George C. Scott in a ponytail. Like, yeah, sure.
All right.
So I'll give them that. But so with all the things that went into Firestarter when it came out, it was obviously not well received. All that. There was a bit of controversy when it came to this film when the Razzies came along and they nominated the little girl. I unfortunately do not remember the actress's name. I'll probably flash it on the screen during editing. She was nominated for a Razzie for Worst Actress. What was your thoughts on that when that was released?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's true she did not do good, but then again, to be fair, as I said before, nobody pulled off a good performance in that movie. I mean, I don't, because the thing is that with child actors, they're not necessarily the most experienced.
Right.
So it was a little unfair. It was a little unfair to do that because I mean they don't have a whole lot of a lot of acting experience.
Right.
So it just, but like I said, no one really did a good job.
Right. And
So.
I remember, I don't know if you know this part, but I remember when I was reading the results after the Razzies were given out that for worst actress, obviously they crossed her out and they got rid of her after the whole controversy,
Mhm.
was brought up. That the Razzie was given to the Golden Raspberry Awards Corporation when they were, or whatever they're called, that like, hey, we get the award for worst actress because we nominated a fucking child because we're idiots. So I'll give them that they did like realize their mistake and they were like,
Yeah,
yeah, that was probably really terrible of us and
that
we
was.
shouldn't have done that. So with going back to the original film, does it make you, in a weird sort of way, appreciate the original film despite being mediocre and not really a fan of it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the original, but I will gladly take that over this remake any day.
Yeah.
So I did. So after seeing it, it's like, yeah, I do have kind of more of an appreciation, even though I know that movie, even though the original is not very good.
Yeah. Stephen King compared it to, called it flavorless, like cafeteria
Yeah.
mashed potatoes. That was his review of the original film, which I agree with. And as I say in my review, it's at least competently made. The effects are good. The climax is pretty fun,
Mhm.
and Drew Barrymore and can actually act. So, and
She
you do
came.
have like a bunch of like really great like veterans of the industry. Like you had George C. Scott, Art Carney, Louise Fletcher, like, and they all do like competent enough job, and so like I'll give them that. It's competent. It's a competent movie. So, and it's better than whatever drivel that we did get. Obviously, I can't judge it. That's why I'm interviewing you. So,
Mhm.
you know, remind me again. Where was the remake of Firestarter on your worst of the year list of last year?
I put it at number 4 on my worst of the year list.
Right.
Um, I because it's like there was hardly anything good about it. I mean, I've already said a lot about it, but it was sitting at number 4. The only other 3 movies that beat it out for me were Rob Zombie's The Munsters, the live action remake of Pinocchio, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
Right. Let's the less said about those, the better. But
Pretty
with
much.
this, it's been over a year later since you've seen it. Has it gotten even worse for you since then, or has it just kind of stayed the same as just like bad? Like it's still like a bad film from when you saw it, and it's still bad now.
Well, well, I will say that I have seen it twice. Unfortunately, the second time I had to do it. Well, we'll discuss that in a minute. But I honestly have not seen it since I think it was like back in October of last year or something. It just seems like it has. It's one of those movies I just really don't have any ambition of ever watching. So I'm not sure if it's gotten better, if it's gotten worse, but it's like I've already seen enough of it. I don't need to
Yeah.
see it again.
Well, it's like kind of sometimes like a movie like the more you think about it, the worse it gets. And it's
Yeah,
like, is it like that, or just like this is a bad movie. I don't think about it. I don't want to think about it. That kind of
that's pretty
thing.
much what it is. It's like it's
Right.
so bad. I just do not want to think about
Yeah.
it.
Like it wouldn't. Like it wouldn't. It was at number 4 on your list, and
Hmm.
it wouldn't go up. Like it would stay at number 4, like that kind of thing, right?
It would stay at number 4.
Okay. So do you think, like way before this was even announced, this was a twinkle in the producer's eye of like making this god awful remake? Do you think the original could have benefited from a good remake, or do you think it should have been left alone? Like, you can't make this to film, that kind of thing.
I seeing how I wasn't big on the original. I think that there is potential to improve on it. That's why I had a little bit more hope for it, because I said, okay, the original's not very good, and there's at least some room to make some improvements on. Maybe listen to some of the criticism from the original. Maybe just say, okay, so we need to fix it this way and this way and this way. I can't really compare it to like how it is from the book. Like I said, I've never read the book. I can only judge it as a film. Um, but I think that there could have been at least some kind of they could have found some way to just listen to the criticism and try to fix like a lot of the flaws that the original did, and they only made it worse.
Yeah, do you think maybe 10, 15 years down the line they could make a good remake, get someone who like has a true vision, like, okay, we got a mediocre original film, we got a god-awful remake, let's try to do this again. Do you think that could work, or you're like, you know what, they had their chance, they fucked it up, just leave it alone?
I mean, it's really kind of hard to say. I don't know how well received the novel is. I'm not sure, but I know that there is some kind of fan base out for the novel. So if some people say that the novel is, if people are saying that the novel is good, then it seems like there could be at one point we could get maybe there's a little bit of hope for a good adaptation of it. But it seems like from where I'm sitting on, it's like I don't know how well the novel is and all, but I just know that if there is a fan base, then maybe maybe one day we might get a decent adaptation, but
Right.
we'll see.
So last question, even though I think I know the answer already, when it comes to Firestarter 2022, avoid it at all costs, or do you weirdly recommend it?
Avoid at all costs.
All right.
Unless you need to get some sleep. Unless you like can't sleep for some reason, just turn it on just so you can easily, almost like a NyQuil kind of thing.
NyQuil the movie. Perfect. All right. Thank you for your thoughts, right, dude? It has been a pleasure interviewing you. And let's hope that you never have to think about this fucking god-awful movie ever again. Yes. I do apologize that you had to think about this again, but I did want to know your thoughts, and I am sure the audience wanted to know your thoughts. So thank you for being my interviewee. It's been a pleasure. See you later. By the way, please check out the Right Dude's full review of Firestarter 2022 in the description below, both his video and his Letterboxd review. Thanks for watching. See you in 2 days.